gentlemen, we would like to congratulate and pay tribute to a very dear friend from way, way back. And I see a lot of people here who look like they've been from way, way back.
Welcome to my book launch. I'm Angela Stuart-Santiago. I have been writing revolutionary roots, 5 stories of incarceration, exile, murder, and betrayal in Tayabas province, 1891 to 1980, for the last 10 years. This is based on my Lola Concha's memoirs, written when she was 88 to 92, that I transcribed in its entire Spanish, and which my mother translated into English in the 1980s, and which, when I started encoding and editing, I realized to be so full of important stories, from the friars to Quezon, to the Revolution, to the Philippine War, to the time of Quezon and the Commonwealth, and then the guerrilla war, the Japanese time and the guerrillas, and then magsaysay's anti-coup campaign. And so I decided to excerpt from my Lola's memoirs and put together a book on these 5 particular stories that touch on our political and social history, and it turned out quite wonderful.
I'm Karen Bertelsen Cardenas, the first cousin of Angie. Our mothers are sisters. What I did for the book, and I had known for a long time that Angie was working on the book, because in 2002, my mom and I came out with, I won't say the first of the series, because it's not really a series, but the first book based on the memoirs of my grandmother. And that was more a telling of the story of my Lola's life up to the time she married my Lola. So I knew that Angie was working on a book because my mom had told her back then, "Oh, Angie, it's your turn now to do the rest," because we were a little worried about how to handle the material that came after the time of the Americans, modern times, etc. So Angie had been working on it, and I was always curious about her take on the book, how she was going to handle it. And Angie being Angie, and her UP roots, I guess, and her pagka-rebelde or radical, really shows through the book, because she looks at it from the perspective of politics, and more than a lyrical or romantic take in my Lola's life, which the first book was. This is really a book that deals with the nitty-gritty of politics, local politics especially, of government, of relationships with the colonial powers. So it's very fitting, it's very Angie, the book. Actually, their take on the book, on my Lola's memoirs, is very fitting.
I'm Katrina Stuart-Santiago. I technically am project manager for the publication of Revolutionary Roots. But in reality, I'm really just punong abala for the whole production. I put together the team that put together the whole book, from the layout artist to the cover designer to the illustrators. I conceptualized the whole production process with my mom. So she had a soft copy of the manuscript. I read through it, and I suggested that we self-publish it. And I think that's what's crucial to the book's production. And that's what I'm most proud of in terms of my role in the book.
Nancy, of course, endless encouragement, and the first tears cried over the story came from my sister Nancy, and the final tears came from my sister Baby on the last chapter, well, the epilogue.
and dedicated to Lola Concha. And so please join me, let's all drink to Lola Concha and to Elias, please. Of course, I had to document it in the sense of reading as many history books as I could, finding as many credible history books as I could to buttress the story, support the story. And so I have voluminous endnotes that I hope everyone looks into because it's like a lesson in Philippine history, other besides my Lola's story. It's the kind of history that has never been written. Most of it is not in the history books of Constantino or Adoncillo. Most of it is a take on Manuel Quezon, Magsaysay, and others that is completely different from the conventional take, which is that they were the best of our leaders, when actually they were leaders with feet of clay.
It was nice. It was very nice working with her. I would do it again anytime. I'm really glad that it came out. I'm really happy for her because it's been something that she's wanted to complete for her mom for the longest time. And I'm really glad that she's finally come out with it. And it's a really interesting book, actually. I've been telling all my friends, read it. You know, because the stories are really interesting. In fact, one of my friends who was here said, "Ay, tama pala si Carlos Eldran. Walang nga talaga mga fraile." I said, "Yeah, talaga." You know, so it's a book that's about my family, our family, but I think it's a book that can be appreciated by anybody because it tells stories of the Philippines in the in our past that you'd never hear, that you'd never know. That things like that really happened, or that's the way it was pala. You know, because you hear it from history or you hear it from grandparents, but here it's very intimate, and my Lola really told it in detail, and Angie has really put an interesting political slant.
I feel that this is also what's special about the book. It's the fact that instead of giving you a straight historical narrative that has a tendency to be long and arduous and boring, working with just those 5 stories and tying them together very quickly across the book works at making it read like almost like a novel. At the same time that it's a very personal history because she inserts herself in the narrative. In that sense, I think that it appealed to me both as a scholar and as someone who reads literature because it told me that there was another way of writing. It wasn't just straight out memoir na medyo boring or straight out history book na lalong mas boring. Because the way Mama put it together allowed for the story to come alive in more ways than one. And by the time Adam had put together the book, by the time we had put together the maps, and even in relation to the cover that Merv put together, I felt that the text itself had come alive over and above the kind of text it was in the original memoir in Spanish and even in my Lola's translation in English. And I feel that that is really its contribution, not just in terms of what it is as a local regional history that can stand for Philippine history. It's really in terms of the form, that this is a form that isn't generally accepted by those who write history and those who write literature and memoirs, but it is a form that works. Self-published. We decided to self-publish it because I didn't want to have to be harassed about editing it or not putting in this name kasi may ma-offend, etc. We decided to self-publish.
Ako yung bumuo ng libro from yung manuscript, tapos ginawang text body, tapos ako rin yung gumawa ng mga mapa saka ng mga character family trees dun sa libro. So 408 pages siya, ginawa ko ng 4 na buwan more or less. Tapos tumaba ako doon, nag-gain ako siguro ng mga 10 to 15 pounds sa buong 4 na buwan na pagtrabaho. Kasi di ako boxers lang ako noon. Tapos kasi mainit sa kwarto.
So, nag-email lang kaming dalawa the whole time. Hindi kami nakita. Hindi ko siya nakita yung naka-boxers. Which is a good thing. Pero natapos namin.
Ako yung gumawa nito. Ito, lahat po ng cover. Tapos, ngayon ko lang namin si Nina. So, nice to meet you. Tapos, yun lang. Nag-ask ko na gawing illustration yung sculpture ni Elias dun sa bahay na ancient house sa Chua. So, drawing ko siya. Okay naman.
Tapos ginawa niyo yung book design itself. So, yung mga kulay, yung font.
Yun. Gumawa rin ako several studies, pero ito yung pinaka-the best. Ito yung una, pero ito yung pinaka-the best. Kaya, yan.
We were able to ask people to do short blurbs on the book. So at the back, you have national artist Benjamin Vera. You have scholar and critic Elmer Ordonez. You have Tayabasin or fellow Tayabasin Bimladera, who's also a teacher in UP. You have historian Flora Camian. And those four read the text without having a sense of the original memoir or its translation. And they read it very differently from each other. If you look at those blurbs at the back of the book, they read it very differently from each other, but all of them hit on the fact that as far as form was concerned, it was a fantastic form to tell history. Also, absolutely proud that Reynaldo Ileto was able to do the foreword for the book because he's really the one historian that we felt would understand the kind of narrative that Mama put together based on the original memoirs. He has his heart also in regional history and in the telling of histories that are very personal and that are about anonymous personalities that actually affect history or are affected by it. And so we felt when we finally got the foreword from Ileto, because it was the last one that came in, it was just, it more than relief that we had the foreword. It was really just an amount of pride in the fact that we got it and that he loved it and that he thought that the form was as fantastic as the content was. The book is available not in the bookstores. We don't really want to deal with bookstores mainly because it will mean that the prices will hike up too much. And I don't want to deal with consignments, etc. We're touring the book, which is where we are now. Manila Art was kind enough to have us do a signing today. And so here it's still the launch price, but after today or outside of any of the book signings that we're going to be doing, or hopefully going to be doing, it will be at $350. You can order via the website. That's revolutionaryrootsbook.com. We have a Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/revolutionaryroots. You can contact me. You can contact us through any of the emails that have been published online. And I will find a way to get the book to you, and if we have to ship it, we shall. And we're looking at doing ebooks soon enough so that the ones who would rather get it on their iPads or their Kindles will get it soon.